Hi, GM everyone, and welcome to our workshop today. Today we have invited thirdweb to host a workshop for all of you about account abstraction on Celo. Very excited for this. I know a lot of you have shared with me that that would be great to have more information on that, some more technical content, and before we get started, just a very quick reminder, what is Celo? Celo is, our motto is building with purpose, building for all. Celo is a mission-first, planet-positive blockchain ecosystem leading a thriving digital economy. And that kind of brings it to the point. We are building real-world use cases for real-world users. We have always been focused on accessibility since the beginning. We have focused on mobile users, on mapping phone numbers to wallet addresses, and today we're very excited to share a little bit more about how you how you can use thirdweb. They offer a lot of tooling for account abstraction, which means just in general how to improve your application to have a more seamless user experience that is more Web 2. And we will get an introduction to the general tooling, and then also some examples, including sponsor transaction, which I think will be very useful for many of you who are building for MiniPay, who are building for mobile users, who are building for Web2 users, because I think to really achieve mainstream adoption, we have to build for the Web2 users. And just a very quick introduction. Hi, I'm Lina. I am DevRel engineer at Celo Foundation. And I am very excited to now welcome G and Joe from thirdweb. Welcome so much. So excited to have you here today with us. And Jim, everybody. Hi, Felix. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Hi.
Glad to
So
be
great
here.
to having you here.
No, glad to be here. Thank you for having us and inviting us over to talk to your community, talk to your devs a little bit about Third Web and what we can help kind of build out together. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you very much for having us.
Nice. Yeah, I'm so excited. I've been talking about this for a month, so I'm very excited. So I think without further ado, G, are you gonna stay in here, or are we gonna both leave Joe at this stage?
I think we can.
Whatever.
I'll be answering some questions and helping Joe.
Okay.
If you want to have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll be helping out there.
Okay, amazing. So please feel free to drop in all your questions. We're going to be here. We're going to be answering them. And yeah, Joe, the floor is yours.
Beautiful. Thank you very much again for inviting us out here today. I am Joe. I am a solution engineer here at ThirdWeb, and it is my job to help you guys build out your applications. Whether it's Web 2 apps that you want to bring Web 3 or you want to build Web 3 native apps. ThirdWeb is the toolkit for that. I am accompanied by G, a very highly regarded engineer here at ThirdWeb as well. She is great at answering any questions. So, like she mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and she can answer them as we go through these presentations. So, what is ThirdWeb? We're going to go a little bit about what ThirdWeb is, how it helps you guys, and then, like Lena mentioned, we're going to go through a little bit of a demo, right, with account abstraction specifically, and how AA can help you guys onboard all sorts of individuals into your app. We're going to see how it eases onboarding, how you can use it for way more than simply sponsoring gas, even though that is a part of it as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So first off, what is ThirdWeb? If you guys have heard of ThirdWeb before, please let us know in the chat. Let us know your experience. Let us know what you've used it for. And if not, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about ThirdWeb and all of the suite of products that we have. So what is ThirdWeb? In a nutshell, we are a full stack open source Web3 development platform. And this means that you can use our toolings natively on any platform, on any architecture type. So whether you're doing native mobile builds, whether you're doing native Unity builds, TypeScript, React, all of these things, you can use thirdweb to build out your applications. This is a really core piece of thirdweb, and what we try to offer our developers, right? The fact that we are not only full stack in terms of every Web3 app needs a front end, every Web3 app needs a back end, every Web3 app needs an on chain governance solution. Not only do we offer all of that, but we're on any development platform as well. So you guys get to choose your infrastructure and still utilize thirdweb capabilities. So we've kind of broken up thirdweb into these three different pieces, and what does each piece actually mean? So for example, front end, when we think of front end, this is going to be anything that you need in order to connect users with wallet connections. If you want to use in-app wallets, so social logins, if you need users to log in through Gmail, Facebook, we just added Twitch. So for all you gamers out there, we've just added Twitch authentication. You can make some sort of Web3 app with that as well. We have Discord, Farcaster, Telegram is a big one as well, with ton mini apps coming out. So you can use all of these login methods for your users in app wallets. Not only is front end about connecting these wallets, but it's also about facilitating things like payments. With thirdweb Pay, you can also offer fiat on ramping for your users on your apps. This means that you guys can offer credit card payments for NFTs. You can have individuals bridge funds from one chain to another, all through this payment solution. And then we have something that is pretty new called ecosystem wallets. Everyone in this chat is probably familiar with EOA wallets such as MetaMask, Coinbase, right? When you have a user log in, you see that big old MetaMask icon, you see that big old Coinbase icon. And what ecosystem wallets let you do is you get to brand your wallet. You, the developer, get to say, "Hey, I want a Felix wallet, or I want a Andrew wallet, or I want a my own branded Celo wallet." Right? This is something that you guys can create yourselves and share between maybe some partners that you guys are working with. And individuals logging into that wallet will have a consistent wallet address between applications. Super powerful. We're going to go over a little bit on that a little bit more in depth here in a little while. But that's kind of what we think of front end. So when you guys think of thirdweb and front end, what does that mean? This is all of the wallet connections. This is all payment facilitators for your apps. Next up, we have on-chain. We know that every Web3 app has on-chain elements, right? This means contracts. So you guys can actually audit, and you can use audited and modular contracts on thirdweb. We have a whole host of pre-built contracts that you guys can utilize as well, so you don't have to create them from scratch. You can use our newest modular contracts, which you can think of as building blocks, right? Little Lego blocks that you guys can piece together and create your own contracts as well. We have a whole suite of deployment tools, whether you want to deploy through UI or low code, low to no code solutions, or if you're a little bit more experienced and you want to do it through our CLI, you can do that as well. And then we have a whole host of extensions with our contracts that allow you to kind of bypass a lot of the boilerplate code. All of that's handled for you on the back end there. And finally, we have our backend products. So backend and thirdweb, what does this mean? This means scalability. This means that your apps can do things like gasless transactions at scale, right? And we're talking hundreds of thousands of transactions through our backend. We're talking about something called secure backend wallets. And a backend wallet is something that you guys can create and fund on your own. You have total control over it, and you can use it to transact on behalf of your users. You can use it as a relayer. You can use it for gas sponsorship, as well as Engine being our automated gas and nonce management. This means that if a transaction fails, we can automatically retry that transaction through Engine without having to do any sort of manual interference. So this is all automated for you. This is a great way to scale your applications. It's a great way to even just perform transactions on the blockchain in general, right? When we'll go through a little bit about that as well. So these are the three main areas that we are going to be talking about in our overview. In-app or AA is going to be mainly on our front end that we'll go into a little bit of a deep dive on. and as we talk through that. Okay, I want to go through a little bit on what Connect we have. This is our ecosystem wallets that I was mentioning earlier. This is your branded wallet. If you see here on the bottom right, you can see your brand right big and center next to any of the other wallet connections that you've decided. This is really important. This means that your users on your dApps, on your applications, are comfortable. They know your logo, right? They can trust that whatever they're logging into is indeed in your wallet. They can trust that um, you are brand aware and that you now have end to end from wallet connection to your actual dApp experience is cohesive, and it helps keep users on your applications longer, which is something that everyone wants as we build out our dApps, right? The longer we can keep users on our dApps, the more we can ease this process and experience, the better it will be in the long run for our users. So, what are some of the features? We can do things like cross application authentication. This is what I mentioned. If you guys are building games, if we have anyone here familiar with things like Riot IDs or Battle.net IDs, this is that same experience where you guys can have a branded ID system across your ecosystem, right? If you have multiple dApps, users can use this one wallet to log into all of these dApps, right? No longer do they have to mess with multiple wallet addresses or having to shift tokens between wallets. You now have a single source wallet for your users across your entire suite of applications. Really, really powerful. So we have some use cases here. So things like gaming studios, right? If you are building multiple games under the same publisher, really handy to have this kind of ecosystem wallet. Loyalty programs, if you want to track users using different pieces of your applications, this is really helpful as well. And finally, chains. Sometimes if you're building out your own chain, even Celo, if you guys have a whole bunch of dApps and applications that you're building out, you can offer a ecosystem wallet, and that ecosystem wallet will move with your users across your applications. So really, really powerful stuff here. One of the greatest ways to kind of play around with ecosystem wallets is through our playground. So we have this playground that is very interactive, and I'm going to go ahead and show it here. So here is our playground. And if you were to say, for example, want to play around with ecosystem wallets, on the left hand side here, we can click on ecosystem and we can see exactly what this might look like along with the code it takes to implement it. If you notice, ecosystem wallets is really only what 3 lines of code without comments. This is all it really takes. We have a whole dashboard setup that you guys can use, UI front, and then code wise, it is these few lines of code that gives you an experience like on the right hand side where we can say, hey, here is our ecosystem wallet that we want users to log into, and whether they want to use social logins or any other method, they can do so as well. So ecosystem wallets also allow you to do things like linking profiles if you need multiple accounts. Maybe you want a user to log in not only through social logins but also through phone number and passkey and link to the same account, right? Instead of creating different wallets, they can do that as well. Really powerful stuff here. I urge everyone to go kind of play around in the playground and see how this all works together. Not only can you do that with ecosystem wallets, but you can also do that with any of our other Connect tooling. Go ahead. You have a question, Lena?
I just wanted to ask you if you can zoom a little bit in, like a little bit more in for like, because you have slides. I was thinking because that you presented also when you presented
Gotcha.
the docs,
Yes,
it was a bit small, but
I
just
can.
like, yeah. Thank
Yep,
you
no
so much.
worries. Thank you for the heads up on that. Yeah, so if you guys are playing around with this, go ahead and you can use any of our other toolings. So if you want to mess with our sign-ins, AA, which is what we're going to be talking about here in account abstraction, you can do that as well through our playground. So next up, after going through Connect a little bit, in kind of zooming in, let me show you something here. So we have our Connect, and let me zoom in for you all. So when we think about Connect, right, when we think about what it takes to log in a user, to have a user log into an account with account abstraction, what does that mean code-wise, right? This is something that can be very difficult to do with other toolings. However, with thirdweb, you can see very simple. We actually have connect components for you ready to use. You can use these components, or you can totally build it out from scratch yourself as well. All of our components are completely customizable. You can either do our ready-made components or use TypeScript on the back end to create these flows as well. Not only do you have these numerous authentication ops through social logins, but you also have any auth method that you want to bring in on your own. So if you have a custom JWT token key pair that you want to use, you can bring that in. If you have some other sort of authentication method you're relying on, you can bring that in as well. You are not limited to only the solutions that we have built out of the box, but all of our tooling is completely customizable for you guys to use as well. So connect buttons, this is what it looks like, right? Very simple. We have a connect button. We have something called a client, which is where you will put in your API keys, which we'll go over through in a little bit deeper in our demo. And then here, for specifically, since this session is about account abstraction, I want to highlight that as you guys create these login flows and using third web components, it is very, very easy to specify account abstraction and how to turn that on. Again, we'll go through a little bit more on our demo here, but as you can see, it's one line of code. If you guys want to use our default contract, you can do so by following this direct code snippet. And so if I were to click this connect button, we'll see this pop up. I can either do social logins or I can connect a wallet here. I'm going to go ahead and do the wallet option. And you can see here that it's actually created a smart account for my wallet connection. So this means that I have now all of the advantages of smart accounts, including account abstraction, very simply by having this one line of code added. If you have this removed, you have your traditional accounts, directly connected. These are not smart accounts. However, you can see how powerful and how easy it is for you guys to turn on account abstraction when using third web tooling. So very powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff. I urge everyone here to go through this playground, mess around with it, and just ultimately have fun building your apps. Going back to our slideshow, that was a little bit about Connect and logging in users and wallets. Now I want to talk a little bit about contract side. We mentioned that contracts with third web tooling, you can either create them through the CLI. And the beauty of this is that you don't have to expose any sort of private keys. It is a handshake process between your CLI and your third web account. What you'll do is as you deploy these contracts, it will be given a link to authenticate, and then you are good to go. You don't have to put in your private keys anywhere, so that is a huge safety feature. We also have a list of pre-built contracts and other contracts that you can deploy through our Explore page. We have things like ERC 721 NFT drop contracts, or if you're looking for 1155, you can do addition drop contracts here. We have marketplaces. We have options for you to deploy your own account factories for AA if that is something you want to do as well. We have things like tokens, anything and everything that you guys need to deploy your dApps. We can probably have a pre-built for it already. So feel free to look at that Explore page as well on your dashboard at thirdweb.com. So here's an example of what it might look like to deploy a contract through the UI. Again, this is made so that you don't need any sort of coding experience, Solidity coding experience for this. You can do it direct through your dashboard. Say, for example, we want to do an 1155 contract. This is also known as an addition drop on thirdweb. We can go ahead, see this kind of screen, click deploy now, and you'll be presented with a few options, right? So we can do things like what's our contract metadata, images, name, description. We can define royalties, as you can see here. We can define things like primary sales. This is for traditional NFT contracts. You can even do things like platform fees. If you're building a marketplace, how much do you want this platform to add on top of? And then you can also select things like network and chain. In this example, you'll be selecting Celo, right? As we work through this. And so once you've deployed that contract, you'll have all of the options available to you that are needed to kind of configure this contract right from the UI. Again, the power of the dashboard is that this is very handy for low to no code individuals. All of this can, of course, be done programmatically through our docs and through our extensions. If you want all of that customization options, they are there for you. They are not taken away. This is just an addition that you guys can use so that anyone can start working on blockchain and essentially just grow the pie, right? There's not a lot of people in Web3 just yet. I know it's almost been 2 years where you hear people say, hey, we're early, right? That is still the case. We are still very, very early in this Web3 boom that is happening right now. So you can go through our dashboard. You can do things like upload NFTs, which as we go through here, you can upload things like your name, metadata, all of that stuff that you would find traditionally in any NFT collection. You can do things like claim conditions. Claim conditions are super, super powerful in that you can customize who can mint your NFTs, who can actually procure them, for what price, how much, and when each claim condition starts. So for example, here, if you want to do a public mint, you can decide when it starts, how many NFTs you want to drop during this public mint, and how much you want to charge. Not only do we have support for native tokens on these chains, but you can also put in your custom ERC20s if you are creating those as well. And so that's a little bit about contracts. I know it's a little bit of a whirlwind there, but I do want to make sure that we have enough time to go through all of our AA stuff as well. So I want to talk about our third piece, right? We went through Connect. We went through the flow of having users connect to your application. We went through contracts, which is all of the things need to govern your on-chain transactions. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about backend and what Engine can do. So Engine is going to be the way to scale your application. It's going to be the kind of helper for your things like transaction management, gas management, all of these kinds of things that you can do with thirdweb Engine. And I believe that this image right here explains everything you need to know. So if you look at this kind of gray image here where we have your app front end, your app back end, Engine, and blockchain. So if you notice, Engine will sit in between the blockchain layer and your app's backend. Now, what does this mean in terms of building out code wise, right? Where does this kind of layer sit? So since Engine is a cloud hosted product, this means that you can use any sort of API endpoint URL process. In this case, we're doing simple fetch calls. If you're doing Python, I know Python has its own way on doing these API calls. If you're doing things like Unity or Unreal, you can still use Engine outside of our native SDKs to perform these calls as well. The beauty of Engine is that because it is all API endpoint based, it is extremely familiar for users to start using and working with. So if you can make API calls, you can use Engine and you can transact on the blockchain. That is how powerful it is. So here's an example of what an API endpoint call might look like. If you notice, it is super familiar. If you're regular to using API endpoints, it is super familiar, right? You know that it is a fetch request. You know it's an endpoint. You know that there's some headers that you send over, and a body in some of these endpoint calls as well. So anyone can get started using Engine because of how familiar it is. There's no new syntax that you have to learn. This is all already kind of traditional API standards that we're working with here. So here's an example of one of the apps that we created real quick. In this instance, you can use Engine to mint an access pass, and then you can also, every time a user clicks within that gray box area, it will give the user some tokens, and you can use this link to kind of test it out yourself if you'd like to. You will have a list of transactions that will be shown at the very bottom. So not only can you do things like manage the transactions or perform the transactions itself, you can also get the status of each transaction through Engine webhooks. So very, very powerful stuff. So think of Engine as not only can you transact on a blockchain, but you can also use it to read the statuses of these transactions. And now comes one of the most popular kind of questions I get, or kind of the answer to some of the questions I get, right? So a lot of the times people ask, well, what platforms do you guys work on, right? What support do you have? So with thirdweb, the beauty is that we are any platform, right? So we have native SDKs for these platforms that you see here, such as TypeScript, React Native for mobile apps, Unreal Engine, Unity, and even .NET if you're making Godot or Windows applications, which is pretty neat in my opinion. I'm excited to see what people talk about that. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see. Um, not only that, but because Engine is API endpoint based, if you have any platform that you don't see a direct SDK here for, as long as you can make a API call on that platform that you're developing on, you can use thirdweb. That is the beauty of it. You can use thirdweb to transact on any blockchain, on any EVM blockchain that we support. You can use thirdweb to develop your dApps and create what is going to be, the next generation of the internet. So this is a really, really powerful thing here. Really quick, I want to go through a little bit about the SDK and how it works. This is where I mentioned about clients. So when you create your apps and you start using them with thirdweb, we have some kind of prerequisites that are going to happen on every dApp. So for example, if you want to create a connect button for your user, it's very simple. All you have to do is import the requisite packages from thirdweb. So it's going to be thirdweb. And if you're using React, thirdweb/React. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a thirdweb client. This client is going to be what is passed over to some of our components. And this client is what houses your API key pair. So every API key will come with a client ID, which you can use for your front end components, and a secret key, which you can use for your back end components, right? So as you have these components and these clients created, you'll see here towards the bottom here with this connect button, we're going to wrap our app with our thirdweb provider. This is so that we can have all of our thirdweb data traveling through our entire app. And then, for example, the connect button will be able to have our client passed in. If you do this kind of setup, you've set up everything you need to know for connect, anything you need for a user to log into your app. So this is just one example of using it through our SDK. We also have a whole bunch of wallet hooks, or hooks in general, not necessarily just wallets. We have things that you can use for getting an active account, things for getting the active balance on an account, and they're very simple to use, very familiar. If you're using React hooks in general, you can go ahead and do that as well. This is one of the most powerful things that I think we have in our SDK. Let me check the time real quick. Beautiful, doing well. These are called extensions. Now, extensions will abstract away the complexity of some of the most common code cases that we have. So, for example, here we have things like getting a contract. In order to get a contract traditionally, you have to know the contract's ABI. You have to know what the contract address is. You have to know what chain it's on. You have to know what the parameters for each function are. You have to know the functions. All of these things. With extensions, what we can do is we can do things like, hey, instead of putting in all of this information, let me call a function. In this case, get contract. Put in a little bit of information, and now we can extrapolate based on that, or have it done on the back end, all of the common functions. So let's say I want to get a contract and I want to perform a transfer on this contract, right? So in order to do that, you need to know quite a bit of information. You need to know what the parameters on that transfer function are. You need to know what the types for those parameters on that transfer function are. You need to know a lot of information on that contract in general. So with using extensions for this transfer function, you can see that we've actually condensed that to 4 lines of code using extensions. And then the same thing with sending transactions, right? Sending transactions are very troublesome to code out over and over. They make your code very hard to maintain and very difficult to read. And through extensions, you can ease that process by extrapolating all of these backend flows on from the front facing code and kind of moving it over towards our defined functions here. So really powerful stuff. I urge everyone to look at our extensions. It doesn't matter if you're using ERC20, 721, marketplace contracts, 1155. If you're doing smart accounts, we have extensions for all of them that can really help speed up your development. And so a little bit of a cool piece here is our Unity SDK. If you look at the video that is playing here, this game, and it is a full-fledged game called Web3 Warriors, was created by one person on our team. His name is Firekeeper, and it took him 3 weeks from absolutely nothing to creating all the assets, creating a marketplace here, creating the game loop, right? The play loop, all of this stuff. He created it with our Unity SDK at thirdweb. in a little under 3 weeks. So the beauty of this is that not only can you guys do your traditional web apps, but you can also make games for your dApps as well. And not only can you do games directly with thirdweb in mind or directly with web3 in mind, but you can also build a game, focus on building the best game you can, and then later on bring on with the web3 component aspect of it. You can absolutely do that separately, and we make it super simple to do so through our thirdweb manager. As you can see here, couple of different settings. So you'll have things like what's your client ID, bundle IDs, what chains do you want to support? Maybe it's, maybe it's Celo. I'm just saying, maybe you want to put Celo in that supported chain as you build out your games. It is definitely something that you guys can do through the thirdweb SDK. And through our Unity SDK, we also have all of the functions that you would expect. Things like getting contract, active wallets, working with transfers, tokens, all of that stuff within that SDK as well. The beauty is that you don't have to pick and choose one SDK over another. And that was kind of the overview, right? That is the quick and dirty, kind of condensed what thirdweb is, how we can help you build out your apps. But now to the nitty gritty and what we're here
Can
for.
we answer 2 questions before we get
Yes.
into the examples? Okay, so I think the first one, Andrew asked, can we talk more about the smart accounts that you enable with thirdweb, or how to connect with them? I think,
Yes,
yeah, that would be
absolutely.
amazing.
Let me go ahead and we're gonna go here into our playground again. I'm still zoomed in. Great. So smart accounts. Smart accounts again are anything that we enable to use a smart contract, right? So as you guys know, smart accounts are wallet addresses, wallet accounts that are created based on a smart contract. Um, at thirdweb, you have 2 options for creating smart accounts, right? One is you can use our factory contracts our default contract that we have. So if you look at on my screen here, we can see for this line of code is how you can create that smart account, right? Account abstraction is creating a smart account, and we can even verify that it's a smart account. Where if I click into this button, I can see right here that it is indeed a smart account, right? If I were to log in traditionally, you would not have that sort of smart account designation. It would be just directly your regular wallet. And smart accounts can be done on both EOA wallets. They can be done on in-app wallets. So, for example, if I were to click here on these in-app wallets, you can see things like Google Farcaster, right? And then in-app wallet is essentially just a wallet that's generated for a user based on a social login, right? That's an in-app wallet. You can add smart accounts to that in-app wallet as well. So for example, if I click here, I can see that this account is just a regular MetaMask account, right? Versus the smart account that we saw in the other screen. So versus a smart account here. They both use my MetaMask EOA as the admin, but you can see the different generations between the two here, smart account and the EOAs. Now, smart accounts let you do things like sponsor gas. They let you, which we'll talk to a little bit about here as well. They let you do things like who adding admins, who has control and access over this account, right? You can do that through session keys, which we'll go through a little bit as well. Smart accounts are, I think, going to be the default wallet as we go through Web3 journey. So that's a little bit about smart accounts at thirdweb. If you have any specific question about it, feel free to throw it in the chat, and I'd love to answer.
Amazing. And she also just shared that until tomorrow, if you want to integrate smart free in-app wallets into your app, you can do that until tomorrow for free. So make sure you claim that in case you're building something where you can use that. And that's very, very cool. So
Cool.
and thank you so much for sharing that. And then we have one question that has already been answered. I just wanted to share that before we move on. And Felix, he asked if there's any support for Svelte so far, and she already answered, but like just to StreamYard, so just sharing that for everybody else. Right now, React and TypeScript are supported and Svelte is not yet supported. I know Felix is also is a Svelte fan, so he already started working on a Svelte version for our Celo composer. So in case you have tickets or you're interested in a contributor that works on the Svelte version, you should reach out to him and also mention how he can reach you for contributions. And I think that's it from my side. And you can move on to the examples, Joe. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thank you. I absolutely love when people have questions. For anyone in the chat, thank you for asking these questions. They really do. We're here to teach, and I'm excited to hear people want to learn. So thank you for anyone asking questions. Feel free to interrupt me at any time for any sort of question. If I'm going too fast, interrupt me. Ask me to explain. I'm all for it. So moving forward, we are here for account abstraction, right? We are here to learn a little bit about what AA is, how it can be done at thirdweb, and how it can be used for you guys. And so we actually have a little bit of our um, a example here that we've put out. It's a dashboard, and it shows all the things you can do with account abstraction in your app. It shows things like sponsored transactions, which we talk about, meaning your user doesn't have to have funds to cover gas, right? You can cover gas on behalf of your users. We can do things like multi-chain transactions because if you use the thirdweb default factory account for creating smart accounts, this means that you guys can do the same smart account address across different chains. So if you're supporting Celo and another chain, you can use this. You can do things like session keys. You can have other accounts interact on behalf of your smart account. So this is very, very useful in things like if you're creating a game and you want to be able to perform transactions on behalf of a logged in user without having the user see a pop-up, without having the user experience be distracted by, hey, sign this message, right? Things like that. And then you can also do things like batching transactions with account abstraction here at thirdweb. You can use our bundler and paymaster to get, for example, a mint and transfer transaction, bundle it together in one, and send it out. And so we're going to go through a little bit on some of these examples here. So with account abstraction, I think we're going to go through the sponsored transaction here first. And sponsored transactions are going to be the most common use case for account abstractions. It's the one of the biggest reasons why individuals want account abstraction in their app. Again, it is so that your user doesn't have to pre-fund their account in order to perform transactions, right? It is a way for you guys to be able to just ease that onboarding experience and ease that feeling of difficulty as your users start using your app. So it's very simple to do. As you saw earlier in our presentation, at the top left here, we have our code snippet for what you see on the right. So this connect button, all you need to do, and we actually have it defined here for Celo, all you need to do is put in the 44787 line on defined chain and sponsor gas equal to true. Once you do that, not only do you have account abstraction, but now you also have gas sponsorship for your users, right? If you want to have account abstraction without gas sponsorship, all you do is set it to false, and so you still have smart accounts with your without sponsoring gas, right? So, but in this example, since we're sponsoring gas, we want to set it to true. And then you can move on with your transactions as normal, right? Now that you've set up smart accounts, anytime you do transactions and you look at things like what's my connected wallet and the address of it, know that it's going to be connected to your smart account. And that smart account has account abstraction enabled, meaning that you guys can go ahead and do gasless transactions. So in this example, we have a transaction button component, which is this claim button that you see here. And again, this is where we see extensions. We have this claim to extension, right? This claim to extension will actually go ahead and take in our contract that we're working with, what token ID we want to give our user. Since this is an addition drop, this means it's an 1155. token. And so, we can specify whether it's a token ID 0, 1, 2, however you want to go ahead and define it. And then where we're sending it. In this case, we're sending it to our smart account and how many we're sending. Again, all you need are these four inputs. You don't need the entire contract API. You don't need the types for the parameters that you're putting in. All of that is handled on the back end for you through this Claim 2 extension. Very, very powerful stuff. So that's it. That's sponsored transactions, right? That one line of code of sponsor gas, true. That's it. That's all you need to go ahead and use AA to sponsor gas on behalf of your users. Next up, we're going to go through multi-chain transactions. This is the ability to have the same account across different chains, right? So if you have a Celo account, you can have that same account on another chain if your dApp is multi-chain, maybe popular for like things like marketplaces, things like our Web3 Warriors is actually multi-chain where you can go ahead and cross between different chains with the same account as well. And to do that, very simple. If you notice this top left kind of connect button, account abstraction, the exact same as the previous method. So as you guys work through these account abstractions, you'll see that all you really need is this one little code snippet and you're good to go for account abstraction. Now, as remember there, if you don't define a factory address here, that means you're using ThirdWeb's default, and that's totally okay. All our default factory account for account abstraction is the same across all chains, and it's what allows us to have that multi-chain support for you guys. You can also do and go ahead and create your own account factories if you'd like, and specify that here in our account abstraction as well. And so again, same thing. If you notice, all you have to do is do a claim 2 depending on what chain you want to do, right? In this case, we'll have two different claim buttons, one for base Sepolia and one for Arbitrum Sepolia for our test nets in this example. But remember, it's the exact same code that I had for setting up AA, right? You can now I've shown two different things that you guys can do with AA, and it all stems from the same setup. So we were really, really careful and we were very mindful on the dev experience here. We wanted it to be easy. We wanted it to be, quick so that anyone can spin up account abstraction for your dApps. Now we're going to talk a little bit about session keys. Session keys on smart accounts with account abstraction are a very useful feature in that if you want to add any sort of admin access to an account, again, if you are doing some things like games, if you're doing things like if you want a transaction to run on behalf of a user, right? Maybe when they perform a certain function, maybe they log in a certain number of days and you want to be able to perform an action on behalf of that user, reward them, or maybe you want the user to be able to you know, create a transaction, a blockchain transaction with some points, right? Some tokens. You can do that as well through session keys. And so session keys, again, the setup exactly the same for your account abstraction. All you need is that account abstraction field, the chain you're working with, and whether you want to sponsor gas. And for session keys, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, right? So we still have our transaction button component. We still have this kind of predefined component that we have with thirdweb. And in this case, instead of the claim 2 extension, we're actually working with this add session key. So session keys allow you to do things like, let's define what contract that we're working with. Again, you can either use thirdweb's default or you can create your own factory contracts for smart accounts and account abstraction. And you can define things like, okay, well, what's the address we want to add a session key to, right? What and this account field is what is the admin we're adding to this smart account address, right? We can do things like what is the session key address? So are we adding uh, an EOA wallet account? Are we adding another account for in-app wallets? So things like social logins. What is that address? And then we can say what are permissions this admin has on that account. So do you want them to be able to use certain contracts? Right? You can limit that on these admins. Maybe you only want to be able you only want them to be able to interact with an addition, right? An 1155 contract and not your 721s. Or maybe you only want them to be able to perform during a certain period of time, right? You can have session keys scoped towards a time period, which is very helpful. So, for example, if you have a user log in and the admin has a 24-hour period to perform transactions, right? If a user doesn't log back in, that session is revoked, and the user can be safe knowing that, hey, we don't have an admin connected to our account currently. And then if a user relogs in and you want to override a current session key or update a session key, you can do that as well through the same add session key extension here. And so that's it. That's a little bit about account abstraction and thirdweb. I want to hear all your questions that you have account abstraction. As you saw, it was super easy to set up. Very the same line of codes depending on your use case doesn't matter. Account abstraction here at thirdweb, we've we've really been painstakingly sure that it is as simple and easy to use as possible. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to show them in the chat. If you have any questions outside of this, feel free to go to thirdweb.com/support and create a ticket, or join us on a Discord, or reach out to Lena, who can also reach out to us to help you guys out on any questions you might have regarding thirdweb and account abstraction.
Also, just like Andrew G, just for congratulations on claiming the free wallet office, and she said yes, please reach out. I also just wanted to say for everybody who's watching to like Twitter, the Celo Devs or the thirdweb account, you can leave also your questions there, and we will check for them, or you join the YouTube stream. I just added the link to the YouTube stream in the comments to the live stream on Twitter, so you can just join that. I actually have a question to get started.
Go ahead.
And that would be, I know you have this GitHub repository with examples. Could you maybe just like walk through where people can find everything that you just have talked about in like small example codes? I think that's what always helps me, for example.
Yes. So I saw that you just put in the GitHub repo as well. So this is our account abstraction repo that you guys can use. It is going to be linked on the right hand side here. You can see that if I were to click here, it is going to be linked to the same kind of screenshots that you were seeing, and you can go through and see what it looks like for things like, hey, sponsored transactions. Right. We have the experience here as well as that you guys can walk through. And then for code wise, it is very simple setup. Everything you need is going to be in the source app folder right here. So you'll go ahead and click on that, and then you'll see things like batching, gas list, multi-chain, and session keys. Each of these folders will
Can you zoom
correlate.
in?
Yes, I can. Ooh, there we go. How's that? Cool. So each of these folders, batching, guest list, multi-chain, and session keys will correlate to each of these functions here, or each of these boxes that you see on the example. So if you have any questions, so let's say example batching transaction, you can go ahead and click on batching here in the repo, go to the page, and you can see all of the code and examples on how to perform that sort of experience through account abstraction, right? And you can do that with any of the examples that we have here. So for example, here again, you notice we have this the same code here. We're on connecting buttons, where and including account abstraction as well. So you can go ahead, feel free to look through any of these folders. One thing I will say is that if you are creating your own, or you want to do your own version of this, again, we're open source. You don't have to have permission of any sort to use this repo. You can feel free to fork it, feel free to add PRs to it as well if you have an update that you want to see. But as you build out your own examples, go to this constants file here. And this is going to be where you provide things like what are the addresses you want to use for your own contracts, right? What are some of the account abstraction stuff that you want to have defined for your own experience. So here you would specify Celo. You can specify you want gas on or an off. So that's going to be the only thing, is that as you go through these examples, this constants file is going to be your best friend here. And yeah, that's a little bit about the repo.
That's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I would love also to encourage everyone who joined today. Feel free to play around, share your repo if you have a great example project, share what you've been building with this. I think Joe has shared so many opportunities and options of how you can improve your app with the thirdweb tooling. Follow them on Twitter. Also, Joe, can you, or let me just find also your Twitter profile. Maybe G and Joe, you can just I love G and Joe. It's hilarious. Please always come in
I
a pair.
it was in there as well, like
That is hilarious. Yeah, I'm just gonna share also your Twitter account so everybody can reach out to you with any questions they might have.
Yes.
And yeah, we would love for you, obviously. Yeah, just feel free to share. We have one question coming in here. Hi guys, thanks for hosting. How could we hook it up with a Unity project? Puzzle, maybe you can be more precise. So Joe, maybe you can just share the docs or a quick.
Yep. So this is going to be in our docs for Unity, and let me get you the link for that real quick here.
Oh, there it is. I just shared it.
Oh, perfect. So let me, in that case, I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to zoom in so that you all can see our Unity documentation. On the left, as you walk through this, on the left-hand side is going to be the categories that you'll be interested in. So in this case, we want to see account abstraction in our Unity SDK, right? So we'll go ahead and click that, and then you can see exactly what is needed to use account abstraction with Unity. So in this example here, what we need to do is we need to create a variable. In this instance, we're calling it smart wallet options, and we have a type, right? We have a type called smart wallet options. And again, if you want to sponsor gas, yes or no. As you can see, that's very similar to what we saw in our TypeScript SDK. And then we have a whole list of options that we can pass as well. And then finally, once we have our wallet, we can decide, okay, do we want to connect to that wallet or not? If so, then we've connected to our smart wallet directly. And then you can also do things like, hey, maybe you have an existing wallet and you want to turn it into a smart account, right? You can do that by following this code snippet here as well. So this left-hand side on this Unity doc is going to be kind of your source of truth here if you want to learn things about, hey, how do I do things like email, phone, social logins? You can go ahead and click that function. Account abstraction is there as well. And then again, I harp on this a lot. Ecosystem wallets, especially for games, ecosystem wallets are going to be one of the things you guys want to look into because it gives you that branded wallet that you can have across all of your games. So no matter what game your user is playing, they are using the same wallet account and they are using the same branded account that you define. So very, very powerful stuff here.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I feel like we still have people joining. I think super, super interesting. I want to ask everybody who joined today if there's a specific topic that you would like us to host a workshop. We are planning to host more workshops in the future. So if there's a topic that you would like to see a specific detailed coding walkthrough, let us know in the comments on Twitter, on YouTube, and and then based on that, we might prepare something for you. Thank you so much, Joe and G, for joining today. Thank you everybody for joining today in and watching and learning, and looking forward to having you join in the future. We also have okay. we already got a contender for the next topic, which would be ecosystem wallets.
I love it.
And so yeah, I mean, I know I could already hear you're a fan, and I feel like your enthusiasm makes everybody a fan. So yeah, that would be really, really cool. And then of course we also would love to share a pull-up with everybody who joined today. Just scan this QR code. You can sign up. This is kind of our ecosystem platform where you can sign up, and you will have to sign up for the event of today's workshop, and then you can claim the pull-up and prove that you learned a lot of things today. So make sure you do that. It's also great to showcase that you are joining the Celo ecosystem. In the future, there might be other rewards. So yeah, again, make sure you claim that. This is the link. And we have another question. The reason why I'm here is we have an idea of an app that would associate ETH addresses to phone numbers in the back end. And Joe shared, we have phone logins that you can use. I just wanted also to mention, this is one of the things that are native to Celo. Like if you're building on Celo, we have phone number mapping. That is kind of a very unique characteristics of building on Celo that our wallets already have. Valora and MiniPay, you should definitely check them out. They enable, and yeah, definitely also like thirdweb offers the logins with the phones, but what we also offer in our wallet is that you can really not only log in, but you can just send money to a phone number, which obviously improves the user experience a lot for users, especially if they're not Web3 native. Andrew, Social Connect has entered the chat. That is very, very true. Social Connect is the underlying protocol for exactly that functionality. So we will definitely in the future host also some more education material on that. Because yeah, I think that is crucial, a very crucial part to creating a seamless user experience for Web2 users. So thank you for bringing that up. I love that. I just shared also here the links to our wallets, Valora and MiniPay. MiniPay just had been already accessible for a year in the Opera Mini browser on Android phones, but now we have just launched a standalone app. So everybody now can just download MiniPay and send money everywhere. We already have more than 3 million users. It's one of the fastest growing wallets in Web3 with probably the most Web2 users. So definitely check that out. We also, if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely go to our YouTube and check out our tutorials about MiniPay. Let me just share here. You can, like, if you joined through CUSD Paymaster soon 100%. And yeah, I think if you're building for MiniPay anyways, I think it's very, very, very useful to add that functionality into your application, the sponsored transaction. That's kind of why we're doing this workshop here and what we want to see you building. So yeah, amazing. And yeah, make sure you check out our videos on MiniPay if you haven't done that yet. If you joined through Twitter, I added them to this live stream so you can find Celo YouTube account very easily. And yeah, any more questions?
Cool. I will say that your guys' YouTube account is very helpful for anyone. So if you guys haven't checked out the Celo YouTube account, be sure to look at it. They do a great job at hosting their videos.
Thank you so much. Yeah, hopefully more thirdweb content soon. Claim your POAP here. And I will also post on Twitter where you can claim the POAP and then, yeah, everybody, thank you so much for joining. This was so much fun. This was so informative and just fun. Thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure. And see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Lina.
everyone.